Tonight, Shane Warne dead at 52. The cricket legend suffers a suspected heart attack in a Thailand villa.
The death of Australia's king of spin leaves former teammates heartbroken.
You're one of the world's great sportsmen.
Australia in grief. Hundreds pay tribute to the Victorian icon. The Great Southern Stand to be immediately renamed in his honour. Warne's family offered a state funeral.
Plus, war in Ukraine, Russia accused of nuclear terrorism, full coverage direct from the war zone.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Rebecca Madden and Mike Amor.
Good evening from the MCG. Tonight, cricket fans here and around the world are paying tribute to Shane Warne. The Victorian cricket legend died in Thailand, aged just 52. All day, there's been a growing floral tribute here at the champion spinner's statue. The state government has already announced it's renaming the MCG's famous Great Southern Stand in his honour. Robert Avadia begins our coverage.
At the Melbourne Cricket Ground, where men weep, a crown is offered to the king of spin. Even to the old enemy, just as he was to us, Shane Warne dwarfed the game that made him famous. For the turn of a new century, he was our Don Bradman.
Got him! Larger than life, transcended not just sport but generations. The youngsters of today, Warnie's a name to them just as much as the youngsters of 30 years ago.
Shane Warne said farewell to us all from the Thai island of Koh Samui. Good night, he said, before a Thai paramedic would announce his death only hours later. When we arrived at the location, we saw the victim lying on the lower floor. A friend carried him downstairs and performed CPR. Warne had been watching cricket, about to go to dinner. A suspected heart attack, says Warne's manager, and it broke all our hearts when we woke this morning, none more so than those who forged their own legend alongside him.
We'd hang out a fair bit together and do, a fair bit together, as I said, even as a 15-year-old, he was...
And it's now starting to sink in that I've lost one of my great mates from the game of cricket. A guy, we shared some great moments on the field, but just shared some special moments off it as well.
Stunned, a bit numb, can't quite really believe what's happened. The highlight of my cricketing career was to wicket-keep to Shane Warne.
He was a genius as a cricketer, I think the best bowler there's ever been. And yet he played with the desperation of a working-class cricketer who was hanging on to his selection.
Warnie, the everyday man who became a rock star. Hard to believe he's gone.
No matter what situation I was in, I always wanted the ball, and that's half the battle. In top-level sport as an athlete, scores are level, one ball to go, give me the ball, I'll do it.
The Australian Test team is in Pakistan, adorned by black armbands, processing the death of cricketing legend Rod Marsh yesterday, now Shane.
So many guys in this team and squad who still hold him as a hero, their all-time favourite player, and the loss that we're all trying to wrap our heads around is huge.
There was a minute's silence for our women in New Zealand too, and for England and the West Indies. No greater tribute than pausing to remember the man who haunted and humiliated them both more than any other on a cricket pitch. Against England, 198 wickets, a record.
And bowled him! How about that?
It began with this in the early 90s.
First ball, bail is off. He's bowled him. Gatting can't believe it.
What was dubbed cricket's ball of the century when a cocky, pudgy young blonde rolled his prodigious arm over for his first Ashes test on England's soil.
And I was nervous, I'm getting a bit nervous in my hands now thinking about it.
English pitchers traditionally resisted spin, but Warnie was irresistible.
First ball in an Ashes series, and I felt bloody pretty good.
Warne was named alongside Bradman as one of Wisden's top 5 cricketers of the 20th century. To his opposition, he was a maestro, mesmerising and maddening.
Cricket close, very close. No, says the umpire. Yes, says Warnie.
Flamboyant and aggressive on field with an arrogance justified by ability.
I wouldn't have liked to play against me. I was nasty.
His best Test innings grabbed 8 for 71, 10-wicket hauls in 10 Tests, and surpassing Dennis Lillee as Australia's greatest wicket taker.
In the air, and a glove, it's out, and that's the record.
By the end of his career, Shane Warne had doubled it. 145 Tests, 708 wickets, his 700th at his beloved MCG. A 1994 Ashes hat-trick was also in Melbourne.
Oh, he's got him, Mr. Quaddy, yes he has, he's got him, it's a hat-trick, yes he's gone, it's a hat-trick.
And so it is here that a memorial grows at what only yesterday was a statue to a living legend.
There's too many memories of him, it's just a sad day for Victoria.
I've watched the Ball of the Century at least 100 times.
We will be renaming the Great Southern Stand, the SK Warne Stand.
The ultimate recognition, I guess, of one of the world's great sportsmen. Just...
But so much more than a sportsman, Shane Warne was a showman.
To Australia's favourite son, Warnie.
I've been practising a bit cricket as a surprise for you, Sharon.
Australians loved him perhaps not despite his flaws, but because of them.
He played up a little bit. I wish I was like him, you know.
But he liked his cigarettes, he liked his drink, his women, and he lived hard and played hard.
Not always by the rules either. In 1998, Warne was sanctioned for offering pitch information to a bookie.
I realised that I was very naive and stupid.
In 2003, a suspension for taking a banned dieting pill.
It was given to me by my mum.
But it was his voracious sexual appetite that London's tabloid newspapers consumed. Scandal after scandal, propositions, trysts, kiss and tells.
I've said all I wanted to say, I've got nothing to add. Thank you.
All endured by his wife Simone until their divorce in 2005.
It was a succession of papers of Shane's with this one, Shane's with that one, Shane's with this one, Shane's with that one.
He was with supermodel Liz Hurley too, until an affair with a porn star ended their engagement.
I wanted to be a full-time dad, and that was the major reason I retired, and I bloody loved it.
Warne is survived by 3 children, Brooke, Summer and Jackson, who spoke with Dad on SAS Australia.
Mate, we're so proud of you. You've done unbelievably well.
The Australian Government will be offering to the family a state funeral along with the Victorian State Government. It's important that we honour him both as a great Victorian but a great Australian.
A former great Australian who said, I want a big funeral with thousands there and a lot of love. And you know what Warnie said? He said, I don't need that. I want everybody that comes to my funeral to have respected my life. And I think he's going to get that.
It's about knowing the right time, and I like to go out on top. I think I'm going out when on my terms.
I don't have any regrets.
Think of the pleasure he's given us all. When the captain threw the ball to Warnie, didn't you move forward on your seat? Didn't that excitement generate? You can't manufacture that. That's real. So that's what we've lost.
Robert Ovadia, 7 News.
Is on the ground in Thailand. Olivia, talk us through what happens next.
Well, Thai police are interviewing all 4 friends who are staying with Shane Warne in this villa, though they still maintain this afternoon. Investigators say that there has been no evidence of any foul play. The owners of the villa have banned all media from entering, but that has not stopped Australians who are either living here or visiting on holiday from coming to the entrance to lay floral wreaths in Shane Warne's honour. The response from Foreign Affairs officials has been swift, with DFAT working with Thai authorities now to organise for Shane Warne's body to be returned home so he can be farewelled. And we understand the ambassador to Thailand is due to arrive here in Koh Samui in coming hours.
Olivia Leeming in Thailand. Shane Warne's status as a Victorian sporting legend was never in doubt. The boy from Melbourne's Bayside suburbs leaves behind a lasting impact, as Nick McCallum reports.
At sporting clubs across the country, an enormous sense of loss.
He was always had time for everyone. Lovely bloke, you know. He was a larrikin, but everyone loved him.
Success came early for Warnie. At his first cricket club, East Sandringham, he played in an under-12s premiership. There today, a shrine featuring his beloved beer and baked beans. A premiership too at Mentone Grammar at 17. The larrikin became a leader.
He was just a really good competitor, and when I made him captain, which probably surprised a few of the staff, he was just sensational. He was always just so positive.
But his first love as a kid was always footy.
I never really wanted to play cricket. I love cricket, but I'm AFL through and through.
He played under-19s and won reserves game for St Kilda before being dumped.
I just wasn't good enough, and that was a tough lesson to learn, that your dream was shattered.
It forced a life reassessment.
Studied accounting, but I didn't want to do accounting. I delivered beds, delivered pizzas. Luckily, I had a natural ability to spin the ball a long way.
So the brazen blonde turned up at St Kilda Cricket Club.
He came down thinking he was a batsman and a very part-time bowler, and obviously time proved that very, very wrong.
Today they were devastated, but could not help smiling at the memories. He spent a winter playing cricket in England and came back to St Kilda 20 kilograms heavier.
He got dropped from the seconds back to the thirds because he came back from England not in pristine condition.
I think he's asked Shane Warne to ask the crowd to settle down.
He always retained that youthful larrikinism, which allowed him to quell bottle-throwing crowds and kept his feet firmly on the ground.
Shane was the same a couple of days ago as the Shane that I met all those years ago.
And a heartfelt tribute today from Yale Con and her son Maxie.
What does Shane mean to your family?
Well, he was our saviour. He was our shining light.
Maxie was born with a mystery genetic illness.
I approached the Shane Warne Foundation as a desperate woman who was told that her son was going to die.
Shane's foundation helped pay for a trip to an American hospital where doctors diagnosed Maxie's illness, treated him and saved his life.
He was the reason my child is now 11 today and with us and thriving. What can I say? I owe him my life, and I'm just so devastated that he's lost his life.
Yet another legacy to be proud of. Nick McCallum, 7 News.
Shane Warne's statue here at the MCG has become the symbolic epicentre of Australia's shock and grief. Hundreds of fans have been arriving throughout the day to lay flowers, stop, pay their respects. A moment to reflect in the shadows of the mighty stadium where he so brilliantly plied his trade, and where the Great Southern Stand will now forever be known as the SK Warne Stand. Shane Warne was also admired beyond cricket, across the sporting spectrum. Among those who came by to pay their respects, Hawthorn Brownlow medalist Tom Mitchell.
I was pretty shocked, to be honest. Kind of similar to the Kobe Bryant incident a few years ago. That sort of shock and disbelief early, and then, when the news is reinforced, very sad. So thinking of his family and friends.
Outside Australia, London was always one of Warne's favourite places. Live now to Hugh Whitfeld outside Lord's Cricket Ground. Hugh, Shane Warne loved England, but England didn't always love Shane Warne.
Well, Beck, taking English wickets and causing heartache on field was almost a pastime for the legendary leg spinner, but there was plenty of success off the field amid the scandal as well. He cut his teeth commentating for Sky Sports, and of course he dated for a while Liz Hurley. And while he was a thorn in the side of many an Englishman, Shane Warne is being fondly remembered by the old enemy. At England's home of cricket, shock from fans.
Absolute legend and really, really sad.
Absolute champion, the best, really, really the best. The drama on and off the field, there'll never be another one like it.
Lord's was the scene of some of Shane Warne's greatest triumphs.
Oh, well bowled, it's gone right through each as.
His portrait hangs in the ground's famous long room. The news of his death stopping tour guides in their tracks.
I was just about to go into the pavilion with a group of 24 people, and one of the guys in the group said,
Warn's dead, and we've only just got used to Rodney Marsh's passing, and so it's a huge shock.
I saw one of the best 2 hours session that I ever saw cricket here when he was playing for Hampshire. Just 2 hours bowling, and it's just so inventive and enthusiastic.
He dominated and partied at grounds all over England. Now remembered as an Australian, the English could never really master, but always respected.
It was his character and the way he played the game. He was a showman. It was the whole theatre of it when he was bowling.
The news ricocheting around the cricketing world.
The Australian cricketer Shane Warne has died.
Even at the traditional home of his fiercest rival, the enigmatic Aussie is sorely missed. In London, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
Shane Warne's beloved St Kilda Footy Club is also in mourning. Mitch Cleary is at Marvel Stadium. Mitch, the Saints will pay tribute there tonight.
Mike, the Saints are remembering a man they've described as one of their most passionate and committed members who remained incredibly loyal to the club off field. Today, the club's AFLW side wore black armbands for their match at Moorabbin with flags at half-mast before a minute's silence, just as their AFL side will do here before their game against Essendon under the roof. Warne held incredibly close relationships with a number of big-name Saints over the years and made sure he was in Melbourne during the winter just for games, even passing on some cheeky advice on how they should play.
And I was on the end of a few phone calls right throughout. Ross Lyon, what's with this bloody defensive game plan? We've got to kick goals, Rui. We want to kick goals. So he was passionate and he was really excited about the future of the football club.
Tonight's minute silence will end at 7:08 p.m. The same number of wickets Shane Warne took during his incredible Test career. Mike?
Yeah, Saint to the end. Mitch Cleary, thank you. And we'll have more on Shane Warne throughout the hour on this special edition of 7 News. Beck.
Thank you so much, Mike. See you soon. Melbourne's wet weekend is living up to the hype. Sonia Marinelli has details. Sonia, that was a lot of rain.
It certainly was, Beck. When it rains, it does pour, and we certainly copped a drenching overnight as a band of rain and storms powered across the city. The system dumping almost a month's worth of rain as it went. Around Melbourne, most spots picked up close to 40 millimetres, but it was heaviest over the southeast. You can see Frankston picked up 56, and the highest total goes to Springvale, where 68 millimetres fell, most of that just in 3 hours. Lighter showers followed in behind today as the bulk of the rain moved out to the east. The humidity is also on its way out as well. I'll tell you when that will be after Sport, Beck.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Well, Russia is being accused of nuclear terrorism with claims a major catastrophe was only narrowly avoided. We're live to Ukraine next on 7 News. Plus, a grim warning from NATO as Australian aid arrives in Europe. Also coming up, how many COVID jabs you'll need in the years ahead. Your first look at a game-changing DNA test. And is supply about to match demand in Melbourne's booming property market? Russia stands accused of nuclear terrorism after becoming the first nation in history to attack an operational nuclear plant in southeastern Ukraine. But while the world condemns the assault, Russians won't hear all the details due to a ban on Western media and Facebook.
Inside Europe's largest nuclear plant, a shell remnant on the floor and a hole in the roof. Out the window, that's a reactor. Proof disaster was avoided by meters.
By the grace of God, the world narrowly averted a nuclear catastrophe last night.
In the plant's control room, a message blares, telling the Russians, stop shooting immediately. You threaten the security of the whole world. Russia says it's guarding the facility, and the good news for now,
we consider from a technical point of view that operation continues normally.
But Europe can't forgive Vladimir Putin's tactics.
Yesterday, they committed an act of nuclear terrorism.
A view shared by Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, a man who, in recent days, has survived 3 assassination attempts and counting. His country remains under relentless assault. Russia releasing video of a drone strike in the eastern city of Donetsk. To the south, besieged Mariupol is on the brink of a humanitarian catastrophe, says its mayor. Pleading for an evacuation corridor as starving residents resort to looting. In the north, more bombing overnight in Chernihiv as the civilian toll from yesterday's airstrike rises to 47. The net is tightening around the capital, Kyiv. Russia bombarding satellite towns like Irpin and Bishev. One person killed in this attack. In central Kyiv, no buses at the bus station, just rocket debris. One of countless missiles fired upon the city over 9 agonising days. It's just the warm-up, the 64-kilometre column of tanks preparing for the main event. We visited the city's TV tower complex, targeted on Tuesday. The tower stands just, but it's surrounded by destruction as bombs rumbled in the distance.
Hear that? 2. Not far away. How far are they?
The 3 missiles here intended to cripple the country's information flow. And just 4 days after Russia tried to take down Ukraine's TV communications, now it's trying to take down its own, shutting independent stations and news websites and threatening 15 years jail for anyone who publishes news not sanctioned by the Kremlin. Moscow TV staff walked off set, Facebook was suspended, Western media too, Russia's information wars. But far more deadly on the ground in Kyiv. Whoa! Whoa! This crew from Sky News UK under direct fire, despite clearly identifying themselves. The cameraman took 2 bullets to his body armour. Whoa! Andre! Whoa! All 5 somehow surviving.
And Chris Reason now joins us live from Kyiv. Chris, you've had breaking news on the nuclear plant.
Beck, good evening. Well, there have been reports overnight the Ukrainians have managed to seize back control of that nuclear plant, but we've just had a press conference from the local mayor saying no, the Russians have now taken it again in a back-and-forth tussle overnight. More concerning news from US intelligence agencies, which are saying Russian forces are now advancing on Ukraine's second biggest nuclear power plant in Mykolaiv, which is about 200 kilometres away from the first. One good breakthrough, though, the Russians have agreed to a temporary ceasefire to allow for a humanitarian convoy to a corridor to open up so that at least the people who've been under bombardment in 2 key cities in the east can flee to safety. Beck.
Chris Reason reporting live. Thank you. NATO's chief has warned the conflict in the days ahead will be worse, but still won't risk a direct clash with Russia. Tonight, the first plane load of Australian aid, humanitarian and lethal, has touched down in Europe, bound for Ukraine.
A united West at another emergency meeting in Brussels, but the reality, nothing's changed. NATO again ruling out military intervention, rejecting Ukraine's demand for a no-fly zone.
If we did that, we'll end up with something that could end in a full-fledged war in Europe, involving many more countries.
Today there was a NATO summit, a weak summit, a confused summit. All the people who will die starting from this day will also die because of you, because of your weakness, because of your disunity.
But the alliance and its allies are ferrying weapons in. At an airport in southeast Poland, 4 foreign C-17s, including this one from Australia, carrying military equipment and medical supplies as the humanitarian crisis deepens. The Ukrainians fleeing now, even more distressed, having suffered a week under Russian attack. Among those on the Polish border today, Australian national Ross, leaving the war zone with Australia's ambassador to Ukraine behind the wheel.
What was that whole experience like?
It was hard, it was unusual, and it was strange. Kind of a thing, yeah, but I'm happy that I'm not there for the time, but I feel for people.
Grateful to these guys?
Yeah, definitely. God bless them. Yes, and I love Australia and I'm proud to be Australian, definitely.
One of 1.2 million who have fled so far.
Help for displaced Ukrainians is being organised at a government level and at a very local level by ordinary Europeans. We're in a shopping mall. Just a few days ago, this was full of market stalls. It can now sleep up to 500 women and children.
But it's temporary. Many keep on travelling. In Berlin, hundreds of Germans wait for the next train of refugees to arrive, strangers offering safety in their own homes. On the Polish-Ukrainian border, Sarah Greenhalgh, 7 News.
You're watching a special edition of 7 News. We're live at the MCG where there are growing tributes to Shane Warne. Our special coverage continues next.
Also, how you can play a part in deciding how many more COVID jabs we'll need. Plus, the Foo Fighters rock Geelong. And the game-changing DNA test designed to uncover the secrets of genetic diseases.
Welcome back to the MCG for our special coverage. There's no better image of Shane Warne than of him at full flight, weaving his magic inside the MCG. This statue has now become a memorial for the man most of us knew as Warne. You can see here flowers are being laid constantly since the news of the passing of his death, but also beer bottles, even a can of baked beans, a nod to his famous diet. There was also a pizza here laid here by some scallywag that was taken care of by a local dog, and I think Shane Warne would find that quite amusing. Let's have a look at some of the messages of support. Cheers to a great Victorian, one of the all-time greats, R.I.P. Warnie, thanks for the memories, and also a St Kilda scarf, his love of the St Kilda Football Club. Long live the King, R.I.P. gone too soon. These tributes are being laid constantly since the news early this morning that Shane Warne has passed. And one of the people here is Dave. And Dave, how important was it for you to be here?
Pretty important. He's guy come from Bayside and become a global superstar and just stayed the normal bloke. That's why we loved him. He was just that normal guy.
How hard was it to hear that news this morning?
Devastating. At 1 a.m. a mate texted me from Dubai and told me the news and couldn't sleep and been crying all night.
Yeah, it's hard to hear, isn't it, Dave?
Yeah.
Thank you. And of course, I think these floral tributes will continue to pile up here, be laid by the thousands of fans that Shane Warne had. Beck.
Oh, he would have loved all the stubbies. Thank you so much, Mike. Well, Victorians are being recruited for a crucial study into the long-term protection from COVID vaccinations and just how many we'll need in the future. It's hoped the research will bolster our protection against any dangerous variants that could emerge over the coming years.
A new plea to roll up our sleeves.
Many Victorians have now had 3 doses, but one of the questions that our scientists are now focused on is now what?
Scientists need 1,500 people to donate their blood before getting their booster to work out if they'll need any other jabs down the track.
The real questions for us are how long your immunity lasts, how well it works against new variants. They need to donate blood prior to their booster and then a few weeks after their booster and then 6, 12 and 24 months following that booster.
Victoria recorded more than 5,000 COVID-19 cases overnight. 250 people are in hospital. 24 people have died.
We are every day in a new stage, a next phase of living with COVID. We're able to get about and safely do almost all of the things that we used to.
Including getting back to the CBD with a little extra incentive. From Monday, diners can claim 25% of their food and drink bill when they spend more than $40 between Monday and Thursday.
This is the biggest serving yet of Melbourne money, $10 million up for grabs.
Although Victorians are back enjoying what Melbourne has to offer this weekend, traders are still feeling the impact on weekdays, with pedestrian activity down by 55% compared to 2020. Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
The Foo Fighters have rocked a sold-out show at Australia's first major concert since the beginning of the pandemic.
Got to be a Fooey's fan. Even my kids are Fooey's fans. Love it.
Around 40,000 die-hard fans braved the drizzle for the one-off concert at Geelong's GMHBA Stadium. A new DNA test can help diagnose a rare neurological disease. Previously too difficult to detect, now a simple blood sample could save a life.
For 10 years, John Stanford was left in the dark, not knowing his chronic cough and balance problems were signs of a neurological disease.
You have no idea what is wrong with you.
Only recently, a palm-sized device diagnosed him with Canvas, a rare condition passed on from his parents. The genetic test developed by scientists at the Garvan Institute analyses defective and repetitive DNA sequences.
This includes more than 50 different diseases, most of which are neurological and neuromuscular diseases. And these are particularly challenging to diagnose.
DNA sequencing technology can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and is normally the size of a fridge. But this nanopore device costs around $1,000, and once it's rolled out to labs around the world, it's hoped it will pave the way for more detailed research into genetic diseases.
There are probably many of these disorders that have yet to be discovered or yet to be described.
Angelique Opie, 7 News.
This is a special edition of 7 News. Still to come, the game goes on. How the Aussie cricket team is remembering Shane Warne in Pakistan.
Also, grave fears for an elderly man missing in Melbourne's eastern suburbs. Is supply catching demand in Melbourne's real estate market? And the AFL community's special tribute to the Tasmanian town devastated by the Jumping Castle tragedy. To news just in, a missing 77-year-old man with dementia who has been missing for more than 48 hours has just been found. Zlatko Spoljar was last seen leaving his Wheelers Hill home on Thursday, but we've just heard he's been found in the southeastern suburb of Ashwood, about 10 kilometres away. There's good news for Victorians looking to get into the property market, with experts suggesting supply is finally catching up with demand. 1,500 homes went up for auction today, with strong demand for units and luxury homes.
It was a buyer's delight across Victoria today.
You say 70? Yeah, I'll guess 70 it is.
A super Saturday with 200 more homes on offer than last week, but sellers still came out on top. Melbourne's North got the most attention. This two-bedroom unit selling for $30,000 above reserve.
Going. Sold at 600,000.
A neighbouring unit sold for 20% above the asking price.
That's 660. Good bid there. That's 660.
It's really one of the most affordable pockets, so close to Melbourne.
Reservoir topped record sales with 31 auctions today, followed by Richmond with 26.
We're seeing more of a stable market as supply catches up with demand.
Real estate experts say affordable suburbs like Reservoir and Craigieburn will continue to be popular for first home buyers, but it's inner city suburbs like Richmond that's drawn the biggest crowds for 3 weeks in a row. In nearby Hawthorn East, one couple spent $4.7 million on a 3-bedroom home.
Third and final call at $4,770,000.
Quality homes go well, even in any market.
February was another record-breaking month, 4,000 auctions across Victoria, just to follow up with the record-breaking December.
Auction numbers will remain high and loan rates low until at least Easter.
Interest rates not looking to raise or increase anytime soon.
Kathleen O'Connor, 7 News.
Thousands of locals have turned out in a show of support for the families of the children killed in the Tasmanian Jumping Castle tragedy. Richmond and Hawthorn players joined fans for a moment of silence before the bounce.
We're here to try and bring this community together and do our little bit for people to help to move forward.
6 children were killed and 3 were injured at Hillcrest Primary School last December. Well, sport is next with Jackie Felgate. Jack, obviously Warnie is front of mind for our cricket team.
Yeah, they're all in shock, Beck, but the match continues. The latest from the first test in Pakistan is next, with the Aussies feeling the heat. A bruising trip to the Apple Isle as a Hawks star of the future stakes his claim. A pair of star Bulldogs lick their wounds as the Magpies push the to-go button. And the Power lose a key star for the start of the season. Welcome back. Australia's Test team faces an uphill battle after a moving tribute to the late Shane Warne at the start of day 2 of the first Test against Pakistan. The home side well on top at 1 for 303.
2 days running, black armbands and a moment's silence. First Rod Marsh, now Shane Warne.
He was loved by every single person in the world that knows the game of cricket, and people who don't know the game of cricket. I just can't believe he's gone.
The game was never the same after Warnie emerged, and the game will never be the same after his passing. Rest in peace, King.
Loved across the cricket world, the crowd craved one last cameo. One spell from the late spin king would have been much appreciated by Pat Cummins. Resuming at 1 for 245, the captain tried to blast out Imam Ul-Haq. The century maker hit on the glove and grill, but okay. Plenty of short stuff from the pace spearheads. Even Cameron Green got in on the act before Azhar Ali turned on Nathan Lyon.
He's got that away superbly. That's out of the middle. That takes him to 90 now.
Imam passed 150, prompting a Brains Trust emergency meeting, but more of the same. Mitch Starc sitting down Azhar, who's still standing. At lunch, Pakistan won for 302. What Australia would do now for a blonde leg spinner. Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
Rachel Haynes has kicked off the Women's 50-over World Cup with a bang, scoring a superb century against England.
Absolutely brilliant. One of the very best hundreds you'll see.
Haynes smashed 130 as the Aussies posted a 311 run total. England lost a wicket in the first over of their run chase. A short time ago, they were 6 for 232 with 9 overs left. Richmond has flexed its muscle ahead of round 1 with a blistering opening half against Hawthorn. A Tigers forward experiment is already paying dividends, while a pair of Hawk draftees sent a statement to new coach Sam Mitchell.
If this was a full dress rehearsal, the Tigers are ready to roar on opening night.
And that is just a work of art.
Jack Riewoldt with 3 goals back on his beloved Apple Isle, although the men in green were keen to let him know who was boss.
Jack pleading his case, and the umpire doesn't like the way he pleaded his case.
The Tigers razor sharp, kicking 7 of the first 8 goals. Noah Bolter's new role up forward, an early winner. The Alex Rance replacement with 3 goals of his own. Ivan Soldo tweaked his ankle in the third term, but returned to provide another strong target for Damien Hardwick in front of goal. Dion Prestia left the ground with ice on his hand, but would play out for 4 quarters. Dylan Grimes also had his hand looked at, but the Tigers are confident he's escaped any major injury. Hawthorn comfortably beaten, but number 7 draft pick Josh Ward showed plenty. The Vic Metro captain from last year had 17 contested disposals in 3 quarters and looks a lock for round 1. Fellow draftee Connor McDonald also put his hand up for an AFL debut.
The spin around the body was all class as well from Connor McDonald.
8,500 in Devonport, doing no harm to Tasmania's bid for an AFL licence.
I'm very, very optimistic that we're going to get the decision that we need later this year.
Andrew McCormack, 7 News.
St Kilda has confirmed a pair of big-name veterans will miss round 1. Returning to Mitch Cleary inside Marvel Stadium. Hello, Mitch. The Saints' depth will be tested early.
Jackie, Dan Hanbury will need to build his fitness through the VFL next week after his heavily managed pre-season. He's missing tonight's clash against Essendon, along with Paddy Ryder, who is managing an Achilles soreness. The club saying he's still at least a couple of weeks away from full fitness. Earlier today, Adam Treloar popped in for a checkup on a pre-existing shoulder complaint in the wash-up to last night's loss to Brisbane, while Aaron Norton injured his hip early in the match and was also sent in for a scan.
I got through the game, just a little bit around my hip, so got through all right, just precautionary. We got 4-day break, so I just want to be clear going forward.
The club's also confident Alex Keith will be right for round 1 despite not finishing the game last night with a heavy leg knock. In tomorrow's games, the teams have been announced. Jordan De Goey cleared of that broken rib and will play his first match of a pre-season that was marred by that New York court case. Vice-captain Taylor Adams sitting out with hamstring tightness, while Lance Franklin has been rested
for Sydney, and a blow for Port Adelaide today. Their gun forward, Robbie Gray, injuring his hamstring, looking like at least 3 or 4 weeks on the sidelines for Gray in that showdown against the Crows today. It's a big blow for Ken Hinkley to start the season. Jackie?
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Mitch. Shane Warne was smiling down on the Saints AFLW team after a minute's silence for the St Kilda supporter. Nick Del Santo's team defied 3 defeats by 5 points or less this season to hang on against the Cats.
Had a horror run to start 2022, but today they win back-to-back matches for the first time in their history.
In Sydney, the Tigers kicked 5 goals to none in the opening term to take a 25-point lead into the closing stages against GWS. And last year's Victoria Derby winner Hitotsu has taken out the Group 1 Australian Guineas at Flemington.
Lightsaber joined by Hitotsu. They're running off the track. Hitotsu just in front. Hitotsu a special win.
Short-priced favourite Zaki went down to the Danny O'Brien-trained inspirational girl in the Group 2 Blamey Stakes. And Beck, that wraps up a really sad day in sport, but the SK Warne stand, I couldn't think of a more fitting tribute.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much, Jackie. Well, as promised, Sonia is back with the forecast. Sonia, what's next?
Well, Beck, the heaviest of the rain has gone. Now it's time for the humidity to hitch a ride. I'll tell you when on the other side of this break. Good evening. How quickly our rain fortunes turned around. We only had 6.8 millimetres of rain during February. Following last night's deluge, the city's total for March is already sitting on 43.8. The system dumped bursts of intense rain as it powered across Melbourne overnight. Here in the city, backing it up today with lighter showers that fell on and off. And it was feeling a lot cooler under cloud, the city hitting a high of just 22.2 degrees. Eastern Victoria today, the focus of the heaviest rain and storms. That is now clearing up and over the border, and the whole state now feeling the bite of a southerly airflow. To the forecast now, showers and storms could cause more flooding in Brisbane tomorrow, while eastern New South Wales bearing the brunt of heavy rain and storms, up to 60 millimetres forecast in Sydney. Down in Hobart, it is cool and cloudy to round out the week. To Victoria now, across northern Victoria, you're in for a warm and mostly sunny Sunday, but down in the south it is cloudy with isolated showers that will tend to rain in the east. The good news is that humidity dropping away gradually by the evening. Closer in, light drizzly showers will continue to fall tonight right through until early afternoon tomorrow. It does dry up late in the afternoon with the cloud breaking up to some sunshine. But it's not enough to get the rise out of the temperatures. Sunday still muggy but cool. We'll start the day on 17 in the city, then a mild top of 20 for your Sunday. A little humid, that humidity dropping away after tomorrow for good. Looking ahead, Monday 24, partly cloudy, that cloud thickening on Tuesday 22 with a possible light shower. After that, we are dry, we're mild, and we've got plenty of sunshine. The nights are cooler, the days sitting in the low 20s as the weather starts to shift towards more typical autumn conditions. But for our Sunday, cool and muggy, then we say goodbye to the humidity, hopefully for good. Beck, Mike.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Mike, it certainly has been an emotional and very sad day.
Yeah, it has been, Beck. Day cricket fans across this country will always remember. That's all for this special edition of 7 News. We'll leave you with a look back at Shane Warne's great life. For now, from the 7 News team, have a great night.
First ball, bail is off.
There's just other side of him that's just hilarious and just not many people see, I don't think.
Oh, well bowled. He's gone right through Ijaz.
How are you one of the best cricketers in the world?
He's just
Completely different person.
A dorky, blokey dad.
That's a hat-trick to Shane Warne, a great moment in his career.
Every young kid in Australia wanted to be Shane Warne and wanted to bowl leg spins.
I wouldn't have liked to play against me. I was nasty. I liked loud music, I was smoked, I drank, and I bowled a bit of leg spin, you know, that was sort of me.
The highlight of my cricketing career was to wicket keep to Shane Warne.